range to go of 1,791 nautical miles.
A NASA spacecraft with 3 astronauts on board was about to land on the moon. But something terrible happened that no one was prepared for. A NASA spaceship carrying 3 astronauts was about to land on the moon when a horrific event occurred for which no one had anticipated. The primary oxygen canister exploded due to a malfunction. This oxygen reservoir was supplying the astronauts with oxygen, and they were now certain of their fate. There were just 15 minutes of oxygen left in the cabin, far too little to make it back to Earth. Sending only machines into space is a challenging task for NASA. However, sending humans and bringing them back unharmed is a complex mission that cannot be compromised, as failure would put years of effort and human life in threat. Astronauts survive because spacecraft provide an Earth-like environment and protect them from dangerous sun rays. Spacecraft and people will be lost forever in space if anything goes wrong, and nobody can bring them back. However, you might be startled to learn that something similar happened to Apollo 13 in April 1970. After success of Apollo 11 and 12, it was the time for Apollo 13, whose mission was to explore the moon further. Apollo 13 was supposed to land on a large crater on the moon, known as Framoru. Jim Lovell was the commander of the mission, with Jack Swigert piloting the command module, and Fred Hayes piloting the lunar module. All 3 astronauts said farewells to their families and departed on the journey. On April 11, 1970, the rocket was launched from Florida's John F. Kennedy Space Center. The spaceship comprised 3 components, including the cone-shaped command module. The spider-shaped lunar module was supposed to land astronauts on the moon and take them back. This third and final cylinder held the engine and oxygen tanks. Thus, the spacecraft's heart. The spaceship would circle the moon after leaving Earth's orbit. 2 astronauts and the lunar module will remove it from the spacecraft and land on the moon. The lunar module would return samples to the moon's orbit. They will rejoin the spacecraft and continue towards Earth. At a distance of 322,000 kilometers away from Earth, and 55 hours, 54 minutes, 53 seconds into Apollo 13's mission. Suddenly, a strong jolt was felt when Fred Hayes pressed a button to verify the oxygen tank level. Before they could continue to think, the master alarm and power failure indicator began to blink. It was determined that one oxygen tank had been completely destroyed due to a short circuit. The mission commander briefed mission control at NASA on the entire situation. NASA's mission control was in chaos after receiving this news, because NASA engineers were aware of the consequences of an oxygen canister explosion. After a few minutes, mission control received data from the spacecraft in real time. Then they learned that not only had one oxygen tank been destroyed, but the other was also steadily depleting. In addition, 2 of the 3 electrical supplies, which were the primary instrument for propelling the spacecraft, have been destroyed. Now all the lights are out, and there is no water to drink. All 3 astronauts realized they were in for a turbulent voyage. There was only one remaining power backup, and the oxygen they were breathing was from the last leaking canister. Aside from these issues, there was another terrible situation. Due to the blast, the spacecraft's direction was shifted, which meant that if they do not change their course, they would become lost in deep space forever. As a result, they needed to correct their course first. On the other hand, the word quickly went over the world. The television networks that had previously ignored this mission began to cover the Apollo 13 situation. The entire globe, including the astronauts' families, was following this devastating news. After 1.5 hours since the explosion, they were running out of time. The command module's last oxygen tank had 15 minutes. Mission Control ordered astronauts to switch from the command module to the lunar module. Luckily, the lunar module had a separate oxygen supply, but it was only built for 2 astronauts. But they had no choice. NASA engineers were real-time calculating how long the 3 astronauts would live aboard the lunar module. Calculations showed the moon module can supply oxygen for 2 days. When and how would these astronauts return to Earth? No one knew. NASA might use the main engine to deliver Apollo 13 to Earth. The main engine was running on the last fuel source, so experts worried it would cease. The second alternative was to use the moon's gravity to propel the spaceship towards Earth, requiring less power. NASA Mission Control chose the second alternative, but it had issues too. After circling the moon, the spacecraft had to be propelled by the lunar module engine to enter Earth's orbit. The lunar module engine, built to take off from the moon, had to do something daring. The lunar module engine's on-time and duration calculations were complicated. Any kind of miscalculation might be disastrous. Astronauts received all mission control calculations and they followed orders. After rotating, they activated the rockets for 35 seconds to point them toward Earth. After 2 days, the spaceship was 32,000 kilometers per hour from Earth and had to make a difficult maneuver. Before entering Earth's atmosphere, they had to return to the command module from the lunar module. Only the command module was meant for it. Wearing the spacesuit, the crew entered the command module, where the temperature plunged below freezing, which resulted in all computers being off. They left the lunar and service module to enter Earth's atmosphere. NASA's Mission Control and the world held its breath as the spacecraft entered Earth's atmosphere uncontrolled. Due to the heat, communication was lost for 3 minutes during entry into the Earth layer. After 3 minutes of silence, everyone assumed the astronauts are dead. But finally, it happened what everyone was wishing for. The astronauts replied they were all right. They opened their parachute shortly after entering the Earth's atmosphere, which was now being broadcasted live on television. Everyone was celebrating, including the astronauts' families. After a total of 5 days, their module was dropped into the Pacific Ocean on 17th April. They were promptly evacuated from there.